Welcome back everybody to another episode of Motobob Vlogs, and today we're out in Sardinia on the launch of the new 2023 Niken GT. What an unusual looking motorcycle look. Two front wheels, 15 inches each, and obviously that gives you this very different riding experience versus, the equivalent. So the Tracer 9 is the sports tourer in Yamaha's lineup that's probably the most closely related to this bike, and they couldn't be more different with just that change at the front end there. So you've basically got the same CP3 900, 889cc inline triple engine, 113 horsepower, same technology package with this big TFT dash and the cruise control and all the buttons. It doesn't get the radars that the Tracer 9 GT Plus gets, but yeah, it's got the riding modes and all that good stuff. But yeah, of course, I wanted to bring you guys along just to show you what this bike is really like to ride. I mean, firstly, let's just talk about low speed grip. They say you get 80% more contact patch than the Tracer, let's say, with a 17-inch front wheel. That's because you don't get double. There's two wheels, but like I say, they're a little bit smaller, so it's 80% more contact patch. And so on stuff like this, like gravel, you just really, you can brake and it grips like crazy. But also, even if you do lose grip, you're not really as concerned. So for low speed stuff, it really does give you a lot of confidence. I think that's why they've now dropped the main Niken, the standard bike, and they only do this Niken GT in a touring spec with the panniers, because the time I think it's really going to make sense for a lot of riders, perhaps older riders. I don't want to be patronizing there, but if you're not feeling as strong as you were, or maybe you're a shorter rider who struggles to reach the ground, then this thing with that wide track, I guess I call it, at the front end there, when you're fully loaded with a passenger and luggage, is going to feel so much more manageable. I mean, it's not like one of those scooters where you can keep your feet up when you're at a standstill. You still have to ride it, but it just doesn't feel as tippy, of course. Really impressive at low speeds, and on these press trips you're always doing U-turns and stuff like that in gravelly little laybys as you do multiple passes for photos, and all day I've just found it to be really easy to get on with. I mean, of course, it's a big old bike, and so you've got to make sure you've got enough space to turn it, but the fact that the front end's really gonna sort of slide out really does just give you that real reassurance. The other side of it though is when the pace picks up a little like this, you've got lots and lots and lots of grip. These roads are incredible out in Sardinia, so of course you've had a chance to push it a little bit harder. Ooh, a cow. Oh, lots of cows. But in that scenario, I mean, that's a great example where you might get on the brakes quite hard. You don't know what road surface is around the corner. Oh, one's on the road now. And you can just get on the brakes while you're leaning a bit. And if you're braking and riding in a way that you're used to with a regular bike, and yet you've got 80% more contact patch, you're rarely ever going to find the limits of grip. I suppose if you rode this a lot and you became used to it, you'd probably push it and push it and push it. But coming from a regular bike to how this feels at the front, it's just really unusual, and it makes you feel very, very confident, to the point where you stop really worrying about the front. You stop worrying about potholes and gravel so much. And really, because a lot of the weight is on the front with this bike, because it's got all the extra hardware up front there, really it's the rear that's more likely to step out. And because you've got that exciting inline 3 CP3, one of my favorite engines, it can light up the rear quite easily. Cool, look at the horns on that one. Crikey! I can see why the ride leader here is going steady. No one wants to get nudged off. Although, if you are going to get charged by a bull or cow, then yeah, you may as well be on a three-wheeler, I guess. But yeah, mad levels of grip. And although the roads are pretty good out here, there's still bits where it's gravelly or loose and you're still doing a decent speed. And so, yeah, we've not had rain, and I haven't been able to try it in super low grip circumstances. But it does strike me that that's going to be another big strength and another big reason to buy one if you are riding in the wet a lot and you fancy that extra safety, I guess, of the really sticky front end. Then it does give you that big safety net, in my eyes anyway. It's a really comfy bike as well. This screen is new. They say they've shaped it to minimize buffeting. They've given it a bit of a cutout to release some of the pressure behind the screen, and it's adjustable in this sort of I've got it in the up position now, and because you've got these super wide bars as well, which help to give you a bit of leverage at lower speeds, because you've got all that contact patch. It does make the bars a little hard to turn at sort of sub 10 or sub 5 mile per hour speeds. So it's got big wide bars to give you that leverage and help with that a bit, I guess. but also, yeah, a very commanding, wide riding position. And normally you might expect to be right out in the wind with your arms this wide out, but because you've got such a wide front end, you've got so much bodywork there, you've got this big screen, then you do really feel cocooned. And that's another big benefit of this bike, and one of the big reasons to buy it. I think as a sports tourer, it could probably hold its own in its own right without having to think too much about that unusual chassis setup. Lots of space on the saddle for the rider, lots of space for a pillion as well on this GT model, which like I say, is the only model in this lineup now. You've also got luggage options as well, so you can either get a top box or side cases. The full three-piece isn't officially homologated by Yamaha, but yeah, you've got options there. There's plenty of space for a passenger, a big grab rail, and so this would be a great bike to up for sure. Tech wise, it's got a lot of the stuff that's new on the Tracer 9, so you've got a big TFT dash. Sorry, it's somewhat obscured by my camera there. And by the way, a big shout out to Insta360 for sponsoring this video. They give me the X3 360 cameras, which is what I use to shoot these vlogs, and I love them because I can get so many camera angles from only having two physical cameras there. You can get it into the editing software or their app and reframe it and get lots of different views and shots and landscape or portrait views. Really love those cameras. It's changed my workflow massively, much for the better. And so if you fancy having a go and capturing and sharing your rides and having a bit of fun with them, then there's a link in the description along with a code where you can get a free gift. So yeah, thanks to them for their support, but it does block the TFT dash there. I'll cut some shots of what it looks like over this bit of the video, but that's a big, nice slab of visible screen there. And it also opens up the possibility to do the phone integration. They've got their own Yamaha My Ride app. Which way we're going here? 3 riding modes, so sport, street and rain. Obviously there's a sliding scale there of throttle sensitivity, and it also gives you 18% less power in the rain mode. There's a custom mode as well where you can change just the TC and throttle map. You can switch TC off as well. Cruise control, quick shifter, heated grips. I mean, it doesn't get an inertial measurement unit, which a lot of bikes get now, so that the traction control and ABS and things are lean sensitive. They intervene appropriately. If the bike is banked over, they might be a little bit keener to stop you sliding out. I wonder if they didn't put it on this bike because it doesn't really need any assistance in that regard. It's quite hard to wipe it out, I guess. I love this engine. I love it so much. I only wish this bike wasn't quite so heavy. I've got to say, I'm really looking forward to getting on the Tracer 9 GT Plus tomorrow. That gets all the new radar tech, which is one thing to test out. It's got adaptive cruise control that's tied into the engine, the braking, the link braking system. The suspension as well firms up if it detects that you're slowing down and there's a car in front. It'll stop it diving as much. But more than that, I'm probably just looking forward to having a good smash on roads like this with this engine, just without the, you know, Niken-y front end. Because for all that it's good, for all that stability and reassurance it gives you, it does add a lot of weight. So it's about 40 odd kilograms more than the Tracer 9 GT Plus. It's almost 60 heavier than the standard Tracer 9, and it's about 5 grand more expensive. And that really is the trade-off. All that extra metal up front, the linkage is pretty substantial as well. When you have a look under the fairing, is going to come at a cost, and that is weight and money. I mean, there isn't quite as much feel, and it doesn't have that regular motorcycle handling characteristic. There's not as much feedback. But yeah, for me, the big one is that extra weight and the way that it saps this bike of that little bit of pizzazz that all of the CP3 powered bikes have. The MT09 naked, the XSR 900 retro naked, the Tracer 9 as a sports tourer. They're really, really fun to ride, and 115-ish horsepower is really in a sweet spot for those bikes, and they're very, very good road bikes at really competitive prices. This is just a little too heavy. I mean, 270 kilos is starting to get on for sort of big American Harleys and Indians kind of weight, almost Goldwing kind of weight as well. And if you look at a lot of those bikes, they're running 1.6, 1.7, 1.8 litre engines. I think the latest Goldwing anyway is 1800, isn't it? That gives you so much torque and guts and thrust. And so when you just need it to shove forward, those bikes can deliver on that. They might not have the reviness that this engine has. It makes that peak power up at about 10,000 RPM, I think. So when you get it singing, you know, it's still got enough to be a fun bike, but it's just not got that immediate grunt. And with the other CP3 powered bikes, you rarely find yourself having the throttle wide open and waiting for it to catch up with what you're expecting. But certainly with this bike, that does happen. You got to stay on top of the gears and make sure that you're up and down the box on some of these twisty roads in order to get it to fly. And actually, normally on these European press trips in Spain and Italy and Portugal, you're between second and third gear a lot. But this bike, occasionally, on the really tight hairpins and stuff, you're down into first because it just doesn't quite have that punch low down in second gear to giddy up in the way that I want it to. But the thing is, you know, all bikes have trade-offs. If you want loads of luggage capacity, it's probably going to look a bit bulky and be heavier. If you want something that's really fast and performance orientated, it's probably not going to be that comfy. And that's exactly what you got with this bike. Compromise, isn't it? Look, it's ridiculously grippy, it's ridiculously stable. You can brake so deep into corners, you can chuck it around a bit, you don't have to fret about the road surface so much, but the cost is the weight and the price, £16,100, which makes it quite a bit more expensive than the equivalent Tracer. But I don't know how many people are realistically going to be looking at a Tracer or this and making that comparison. I think it's just that they have the platform in common, they have the engine and some of the chassis, the electronics in common, and so that's what's making me make that comparison. But realistically, this is a bit of a specialist bike for someone with a specific use case probably, or certain riding conditions. And actually that price tag, if it really solves a problem in their life, like they don't want to give up biking, or they don't want to give up going 2-up, or they don't want to give up touring, or they live in a proper sketchy, horrible place to ride bikes and have had a bad experience with the front end going and a bad crash, and they want to get back on the bike and have something they really trust, maybe that extra few grand versus the Tracer 9 or equivalent motorcycles, maybe like Ninja 1000 SX or something like that, it's easy to justify because this is unique. There's no other bike like this on the market. You've got the little scooters with the 3 wheels, the 2 at the front, but they don't give you anywhere near the thrills of this. And I know I'm criticizing the weight, but actually the feeling it gives you is much like a regular motorcycle. There is enough power there to have fun, certainly a lot more than a scooter anyway, and it's just a wonderful product. You've got to admire them for putting it out there. Anyway, I'd love to know what you think of it, so do let me know down in the comments. Hope everybody's well. We've got the Tracer 9 GT Plus tomorrow. It's got, like I say, adaptive cruise with the radar on the front, and it ties into all of those electronics type things, so it might be a vlog from me on that bike, not doing anything, just steering, stick it on adaptive cruise and see how far we can go. So do hit subscribe if you want to see me not riding a bike while sat on it. And if you're new here, but maybe you follow the main channel, this is more, you know, off the top of my head on the bike stuff. So do subscribe if you want to see more of that. Hope everyone's well and getting out on their bikes now the weather's starting to improve a little bit. I think it's not bad back home as well this week, so I don't feel as guilty as usual. And yeah, I look forward to seeing you all in the next video.